I've been boating for my entire life, and not once would I ever think this could happen to me. Connor and I are moving down the river at roughly 55 miles per hour, and all of a sudden we lose a nut on our hydraulic steering and we're ejected from the boat. The boat makes a full circle and I get trapped underneath the boat for the full 360. I had no clue which way was up. The two items that saved me that day were my engine cutoff switch and my life jacket. If it weren't for those two items, I wouldn't be here today.
The engine cutoff device is something that's now required, and the Coast Guard is going to be the one that implements the law enforcement on this. The lanyard is good because, one, it reminds you that you are connected and you're safe that way, and if something would happen to the captain, either falling out of the chair or getting bumped out or falling overboard, then it's actually going to pull the switch down and it shuts the motor off. And it's one of those things that's going to protect people from falling out of the boat and having the boat continue to go in circles and run over you. Circle of death.
And that's exactly what it is. And the reason why they call it that is that where the boats are lost control and they just bounce from shore to shore, off boat to boat, and it's very difficult for someone to capture the boat to stop it from doing further damage or injury. And so use the lanyard, use the cutoff switch. It's very important.
So someone has a vessel, though, that would require it, but they don't have one. You were saying it's really pretty simple to install one yourself.
Yeah, actually, my boat. It's an older Tritoon, and I had be up front. I had a new engine and had to put a temporary throttle onto it, and somebody took away that feature on the throttle. So I went onto Amazon for $17. Wow. You can get a cutoff switch, and all you do is you mount it into your console, and all it does is it's very simple. It's got two wires, and you have one that feeds to the battery, one that feeds to the ignition, and you just plug it in just like you would on a jet ski. It works, and it's simple to do.
Now also, they make electronic wireless engine cutoff devices, don't they?
Right, yeah, and that's the neat thing about it is you can actually get an electronic device not only for your family members, each one of your family members can have one, but you can have a device that can be attached to your pet, and if your pet falls overboard, it will kill the engine.
Yeah, you can buy as many of those sensors as you want, so you can have one for every child on the boat, for grandma and grandpa, for the dog, might even have one for your wife. And mother-in-law. So if somebody does fall overboard, it's going to kill the motor instantly. So it's a really good safety feature. 2009, manufacturers started having to put these in vessels 26 feet and under. So it's been a law for a long time, but it's now going to start being enforced as of April 1st.
Is the Coast Guard going to give a little wiggle room on, helping people through this transition?
Check with the local Fish and Wildlife division, check with your local conservation. A lot of the states, those are the governing bodies in several of the states.
And you certainly can check it, United States Coast Guard.
The thing that hits me, Jeff, about Propeller Strikes is so often you're talking about a family member or other loved one who has been damaged by that strike, and that you can be in the captain's seat.
Right.
And accidentally, horrifically hurt someone that you love.
And how you recover from that, I don't know, but it's easy to avoid. Anytime you're going to put somebody in the water, don't assume the boat's in neutral. Again, take the time to make sure the boat's turned off, make sure the keys are out of the ignition. As I grew up, I used to love to pretend I was driving a car. And, with the keys there, children can turn the key on and start that process. So you've got people in the water, the boat's turned off, and the keys are put somewhere safe.
When that boat is in neutral, that propeller is still spinning, right?
It could be. When you go from forward to reverse and go into neutral, there will be a little free spin time. Honestly, by the time you turn the boat off and you get everybody ready to disembark the boat, or your tuber or skier ready to disembark, that prop will be stopped at this point. There's not too many situations I've ever seen where anybody is fully ready to jump out of the boat as soon as the motor stopped. They should be sitting securely until the boat is stopped.
There are some pretty simple ways to avoid these situations. So when it comes to propeller strikes, really turn the boat off, put the keys up, and once you think everyone's back in the boat, before you turn that key back on, take one more look around.
Yeah,
right?
do a head count.
Yeah.
Always do the head count.
I know people love to sit on top of the engine compartment when they're cruising down the lake, but it's really a no-no.
Well, it is, and that's a good way to be pulled over by the Highway Patrol Water Division. Strict laws on where you can sit in a boat based on the railings. Some boats have the correct height railing on the front where you can sit on the bow, but on the back, you can't sit on the engine compartment, you can't sit on the swim platform while the boat is in motion. And even when the boat is running, you shouldn't be in those areas.
Now, living here long enough, you're going to see some things.
You are.
And surely, I mean, I've seen it, I'm sure you've seen children come off the back of a boat. I mean, especially to me, I saw a child come off the back of a cruiser one time and they didn't even know.
While you're going down the lake, if you have young children on the boat, they're curious. They're fearless, so you really need to take care of them. The law says 7 or younger should be in a life jacket unless they're in a cuddy area. Personally, I think that's too young. With my family, it was 13 or younger. You wore a life jacket while the boat was in motion, or you were in the lake. The children get used to it. It becomes habit to them, just like a seatbelt. Nobody thought that would ever take. Now it's merely habit that when you get in a car, you click that seatbelt. If you get them into the habit that anytime they're near water, that they put that life jacket on.
Too often we learn the hard way. And once again, that's why we're doing this, because we want people to learn before they have to face these horrific situations.
Yeah, we want people to come to the lake, enjoy their time with us. We want the people that live here at the lake to enjoy this great resource they have in their backyard. And we want it done safely so you can either do it again tomorrow or come back again next year.
Being on the water is one of the best ways to enjoy the outdoors. No matter the season, you'll want to make sure that your safety gear is in good working order and you have all the safety equipment to meet the legal requirements. You'll need a properly fitting U.S. Coast Guard approved life jacket on board for each passenger. I recommend that your passengers put on their life jacket at the dock before departure and wear it at all times while boating. If your boat is longer than 16 feet, it's required that you have a throwable flotation device. A cushion or a ring buoy can be used, and we suggest having at least one throwable with the line attached in case you need to pull someone back to the boat. Let's look at the legal requirement for fire extinguishers. If your boat is under 26 feet, you're required to have at least one B1 type extinguisher. If your boat is 26 to 40 feet, you'll need 2 B1 type extinguishers or 1 B2 type. It's important to check the expiration dates. Check that the device is charged and in good working order, and make sure that all passengers know where the extinguisher is and how to use it. Remind them to pull the pin, squeeze the handle, and aim at the base of the flames. Another required item is a sound signaling device. The type of device required may be dictated by the length of your vessel. For example, a vessel of 12 meters or more needs a whistle, and a vessel less than 12 meters is not required to carry a whistle, but is highly advisable as the rules state. The vessel shall be provided with some other means of making an efficient sound signal. These devices can be particularly useful in heavy fog. The requirements for a visual signaling device vary by vessel type and individual state laws. Signaling devices include flares and strobe lights. Boats over 16 feet must carry visual signaling devices, so check your state requirement to ensure you have the proper device. We often receive questions about what signaling devices are required, and your location from land may have an impact on carriage requirements. Be safe and check your local and state regulations. You'll need certain documents on board, including your boat registration. If your state requires a boating safety certificate or education card, each boat operator will need their copy. If you are fishing, check your local and state laws since most areas require a fishing license. Make sure to have these legally required items prior to departure and check with your local state laws. Next, let's review additional safety gear that's recommended to keep you and your passengers safe. Some state laws vary, so having these items on board can help ensure safety and legal requirements are met. Maybe you are boating to get away from the hustle and bustle of life, but a communication device can save your life if you get into trouble. Most boaters have a cell phone, which is great when there's a signal. A communication device that relies on satellite transmission is more reliable on the waterways. Using the VHF radio, you can send a message to other boaters or the U.S. Coast Guard. In the unfortunate event that you find yourself in an SOS situation, a personal locator beacon, commonly called a PLB, can attach to your person, or an emergency position indicating radio beacon, or EPIRB, which is installed on your boat, can save your life.
If you're not ready to make the investment, there are some organizations who rent these devices.
You never know when you may need a Band-Aid or get a splinter. A simple medical kit is good to have on board your boat. If your plans include fishing, swimming, or staying in one place, having an anchor is important. Always remember that an anchor is attached to the bow of the boat only. Never attach an anchor to the stern. Carrying a heavy-duty flashlight helps, especially if you find yourself out after sunset. Keeping a sharp knife on board is useful if you have an entanglement. Gas engines produce carbon monoxide, which can accumulate in and around your boat. Having a portable carbon monoxide detector on board will alert you if there are dangerous levels. The symptoms of carbon monoxide poisoning resemble seasickness, so a detector is an important safety device to keep your passengers safe. Each boating trip is different, and you should assess the experience and comfort level of your passengers before going on the water. So, pack accordingly and ensure that you have plenty of water, sunscreen, food, and towels, in addition to the above listed items.
First, we're going to talk about bag selection. It's really whatever bag you're comfortable carrying. I prefer a dry bag that can get wet and be submerged, or a backpack. These are the items you're going to need for navigation. Chart, binoculars, cell phone, GPS, VHF handheld radio. Now I'm going to show you survival aids. Water, and you might want to bring energy bars, first aid kit, garbage bags, spare reading glasses, suntan lotion. This is safety and rescue equipment. Hopefully you'll never need them. Batteries, ties, waterproof black tape, miscellaneous tools, signal, air horn, and your whistle. Flashlight, compass, personal flotation device, laser flare, personal location beacon, or EPIRB. Now we're going to talk about protective clothing and covering. Aluminum blanket, foul weather gear and light jacket, headscarf, buff, bandana, polarized sunglasses, and fast drying towel. Now that you have your boat bag complete and ready to go, keep it in the same place at your house that's easily accessible. I keep mine by my coat closet. Make sure you never take items out of it. Leave it in there so you know you always have it.
I'm sure both of you agree, as seasoned captains, that there should be no such thing as bad weather boating if people take the proper precautions.
Always check your weather before you go out and make your decision, informed decision, what you're going to do before you take off.
And that's pretty easy to do, right, guys?
I think it is. With all the apps that are available today, it's very easy to pick up your phone and check the weather to make sure what's going to be going on. If they're predicting some bad weather, obviously you want to know, is that going to be this afternoon or is it not till tonight? There's a nice little radar app on your phone, be a good one to have too, so you can kind of watch those storms that might be coming through. So yeah, it's easier now than it used to be to check the weather.
Now, we talk about safety precautions before you ever leave the dock quite often, and I know a big part of that is a float plan. So if one of you could explain what a float plan is and why it might look excessive on the surface for your recreational boaters or your angler who wants to go out every day, that's really important.
It really is. An idea of a float plan is to let people know where you are, when you're leaving, where you're going, and maybe other possible stops you're going to be making on the way, and what time you expect to return. It really is a way for, in the event something does happen, they know where to start looking for you. And things happen where you might have motor problems, or you just get talking with friends and not get back at the time that you're supposed to do. I'd rather be safe than sorry.
And you can't count on cell service being good everywhere that you are on the water. I know there's places here in Lake of the Ozarks where it's very limited or none at all. So you kind of have to make other plans accordingly, make sure that you've got contact with people on the shore that might be able to follow up if you're going to be late, that kind of thing.
Now, we woke up this morning to another weather condition that should be taken very seriously, and that's a dense fog advisory. Let's talk about what that is and how to handle it if you suddenly get lost in the fog.
That really is a dangerous situation when you're boating. Obviously, if you are out there and you get caught in the fog, you've got to have your navigation lights on. You should be blowing your horn every once in a while to make sure that other boaters that might be out there will hear you and locate you, because in the fog, your sound is going to be altered because of the moisture in the air, and the lighting is the same way. And of course, obviously, you want to slow your speed down to where you can visibly see. But we were talking like less than a block you couldn't see this morning.
Inclement weather, or maybe just really rough waves, even get closer to the shore. Just if you can't do anything else, get closer to the shore, find a dock, just get as close to land as you can.
Specifically on bad storms, bad weather, high wind aspects, if you have to take shelter, find an empty slip. Mm-hmm. And better if you find a covered slip that would protect you from thunder, lightning, mm-hmm. hail, snow, ice, things like this.
Yeah.
It's like, which hopefully you saw that before you went out and just didn't get in the boat.
Well, no, I mean,
but it does happen.
It does.
Well,
happen.
die-hard boaters are going to go out in all kinds of weather. I mean, so yeah, you want to go out, you're going to go out.
Saddest day of the year is winterizing your boat, right?
Yeah, well, you don't want to winterize your boat. You should run all the time,
I
especially
agree.
if you have an outboard.
Yeah, I agree.
And people with outboards like myself, you do boat all year round.
For all the tips you need to get off the dock and on the water, keep coming back to floatyourboats.com.
Operate your boat at a safe speed where you can maintain control at all times. Refrain from using excessive speed, especially when in the vicinity of other boats or dangerous waters. Remember that one of the main differences between operating a vehicle on land versus in the water is there are no brakes on a boat. Even after you place the throttle in neutral, the boat will continue to coast forward. Do not allow passengers to ride on the bow, seat backs, gunnel, or the transom. Practice safe water ski and tow sport practices. A good rule of thumb is, it takes 3 to ski. One of the most common and fatal negligent behaviors is operating a boat under the influence of alcohol or drugs. Alcohol use is the leading known contributing factor in fatal boating accidents. Boating and drinking don't mix. Be a smart and responsible boater. Operating a boat has rules, just like driving a car. Before spending time on the water, be sure you have the proper knowledge and confidence in boating navigation rules. Familiarize yourself with common boating terms. The bow is the front of the boat. The stern is the back of the boat. The port is the left-hand side of the boat when facing the bow from the inside of the boat, and the starboard is the right-hand side of the boat. When another boat is coming at you head-on, keep to your right or starboard. If you are passing or overtaking a boat, you should pass on the left or port side of the other vessel. Be a courteous and cautious boat operator. In general, power-driven vessels should keep out of the way of sailboats and human-powered vessels such as canoes, paddleboards, or kayaks, while also adhering to their duty to avoid collisions. The human-powered vessels have the same duty. If you are in danger, utilize a sound signal, whistle, or horn on your boat to warn those nearby. Consult your rental location on recommended safety protocol. Maintain a proper lookout at all times. Depending on the size of the boat, you may need someone on the bow and stern to watch for all hazards. Every boat has a maximum weight and person capacity. Overloading your boat can cause your boat to capsize. Follow these capacity labels. Stow all gear in a secure place so it isn't a potential hazard. If you're renting a power boat, you're likely looking forward to water towing sports. Both the boat operator and the skier need to be aware of the level of responsibility and attention required to safely participate in tow sports. It's important to remember that all participants in the sport must wear a U.S. Coast Guard approved life jacket that has been properly fitted and is designed for their sport. It takes 3 to ski is the policy of this rental company. This means in addition to the boating operator and the person being towed, You should have a lookout keeping an eye on the tow sport participant while the operator looks ahead. The operator and lookout need to keep the person in view while they are being towed. When the participant reboards, turn the bow of the boat towards them and turn off the engine well before the participant is near the boat until they are safely on board. Carbon monoxide is an odorless, colorless, and tasteless gas. It can accumulate in dangerous concentrations around boats. All gasoline engines and generators produce carbon monoxide. Always turn off the engine when anchored or not moving to reduce exposure to carbon monoxide. Symptoms of carbon monoxide poisoning include irritated eyes, nausea, dizziness, and weakness. Seek medical attention immediately if these symptoms suddenly occur. The awareness zone includes the front, sides, rear, and swim platform, as well as the extended 30 feet behind and all around a boat. Never enter the awareness zone in the water until the boat motor has been turned off and stopped moving, and you have counted to 10. The propeller takes up to 10 seconds to stop moving. Always anchor in designated safe areas away from high traffic areas. Always anchor from the bow of the boat rather than the stern or sides. Pontoon and deck boats are a very popular vessel of choice and can provide a great home base for swimming, sunbathing, and other recreational activities. Here are a few pontoon-specific safety tips. Never allow a passenger to ride on the platform at the front of the boat. A slip and fall between the pontoons will funnel you directly into the propeller. Be sure to follow the weight limit and do a head count to ensure the safety of your passengers. We want you to be around for the next adventure. When swimming, make sure the boat engine is turned off and the boat is anchored. It is recommended that you continue to wear a life jacket when swimming unless you are in a designated swim area. Always have a responsible water watcher, even for adults and good swimmers. The more time you spend on the water, the better boater you will become. Being safe on the water depends on you. A personal watercraft, or a PWC, is an extremely fast and unbelievably powerful recreational vessel. They are incredibly fun to operate, but also pose a dangerous risk if operated irresponsibly. Taking the proper precautions can keep yourself and others safe. The first, if not most important safety step is to wear a life jacket. PWC operators, passengers, and persons being towed are all required, by law, to wear a life jacket at all times. Life jackets must be U.S. Coast Guard approved, properly fitted, appropriate for your activity, and in good condition. We recommend that you check the label to ensure that the life jacket is approved for use on personal watercraft. Before heading out on the water, make sure your rental operator shows you how to attach the engine cutoff device lanyard, how to start the PWC, and how to operate your specific vessel. Attach the engine cutoff device lanyard to your wrist or life jacket at all times. This engine cutoff device lanyard will stop the engine in the case of a fall. Consult your rental operator for instructions on how to start the engine. In most cases, it's as simple as choking the engine and pushing the start button. To stop the engine, simply press the stop button. One of the main differences between operating a vehicle on land versus in the water is once the throttle is released, even if the engine is off, you will lose the ability to control the movement of the PWC. You will not be able to steer the vessel. The throttle controls speed and steering on the PWC, so take early action to avoid collisions. Be sure to check with your rental operator regarding the specific operating features of your rental. Maintain proper lookout and scan constantly with not only sight, but also hearing. Keep an eye out for other boaters while keeping a safe distance from shoreside structures, other PWCs, swimmers, and towing vessels. Remember, a PWC is not a toy. It is your job to ride responsibly. While it might be tempting to test the limits, avoid aggressive maneuvers. Operate defensively and cautiously based on the capability of the specific PWC you are renting. Do not jump the wake or make sharp turns, as it can confuse other boaters or cause injury to yourself or passengers. Never cut in front of another PWC or boat. If you plan to rent a PWC with a child, be sure to check the state's minimum age requirements for operating a PWC. We suggest researching ahead of time. Just because a child can reach the throttle does not mean they should. Even the most cautious riders might find themselves capsized in the water. If this happens to you, swim to the back of the PWC and return it to an upright position and safely climb back on. Now that you know how to operate a PWC safely, grab your life jacket and have some fun.
Hey guys, Alex here, and we're at the lake today with my friends, and we're going to be doing some water tubing. Okay, so first things first, we need our life jackets. We need to find the right life jackets that are going to be good and suitable for this kind of impact, like this. This will do. Hey G. So before we left the dock, we made sure we had an experienced boat operator, that the operator considered a safe speed, and we had a spotter watching those on the tube because we're gonna fall off. Hey guys, thanks for watching, stay safe, and we'll catch you next time.
When I'm not working, being out on the water with my friends, that is truly living to me. Making smart decisions about drinking and boating, that's a priority. I always want to make sure my friends are having a good time. And to me, that means having a designated skipper. I took the pledge to be a designated skipper for everyone else on board because I want these guys at my wedding. For everyone else on the water, designate a sober skipper. Take the pledge. DesignatedSkipper.com.
It is the responsibility of every boat operator to take all necessary action to avoid a collision, taking into account the weather, vessel traffic, limits of other vessels, and visibility. Such action should be taken in ample time to avoid a collision and at a safe distance from other vessels. If there is a risk of collision, rule number 2 of the NAV rules requires you to do everything you can to avoid the collision. When operating a boat, there can be many distractions on the water. It is your responsibility as a boat operator to maintain a proper lookout. In fact, not keeping a sharp lookout is the most common cause of collisions. Be sure that no passengers or equipment can interfere with your visibility. Watch and listen for other vessels, radio communications, navigational hazards, and people involved in other water activities. 5 short blasts on the water means danger. You can use 5 short blasts when you're not certain what another boater intends to do to avoid a collision or if you need help. It is important to provide a safe environment for all participants both on and in the water. Also remember that all hands on the boat can and should be lookouts. Be sure that you let your passengers know that it is their responsibility as well to help keep watch while the boat is underway. Except where speed is restricted by regulation or the waterway is marked by a no-wake or slow speed buoy or sign, it is critical to find a safe speed that allows the time and the distance to avoid collisions. Remember that a safe speed also means controlling your wake. Watch out for other vessels that are at a standstill and could be affected by it. A safe speed will differ depending on vessel size, maneuverability, surrounding vessel traffic density, operator's navigational expertise, and environmental conditions. Bigger boats have a larger turning radius, so be sure that you take into account the size of your vessel when assessing the appropriate speed. A vessel of any size should take proper precautions to avoid surrounding traffic. In restricted environmental conditions, such as at night, or when fog, mist, rain, snow, or even wind affects visibility, always reduce speed and navigate with extreme caution.
There are many beautiful things to see while boating, and lots of distractions. As captain of your boat, it is your responsibility to always be aware of your surroundings. This includes what you see and hear. Look in all directions for boats, paddlers, swimmers, and objects you could strike. Listen for approaching boats, and always err on the side of caution. As the captain, put your phone away while underway. Distracted boating can be deadly.
We are down at the docks here at Sur Dyke, Port 20 in Osage Beach, Missouri, with retired Fire Chief Jeff Dorhauer, who is now at the helm of boat rentals and gas dock operations here at Sur Dyke, Port 20. Jeff, in your long years as a firefighter, I know you responded to countless on-water emergencies, many of them involving gas docks and boat explosions and fires that have just got to be some of the most horrific scenes that you can arrive at.
They are. It's a very violent reaction. So I'm glad today we're going to talk about probably one of the most debated issues, not only here at the Lake of the Ozarks, but across the country, and that is, how do you properly refuel a boat? The truth of the matter is you should turn everything off. What happens when you take a 50-gallon fuel tank and say you're down half tank, when you're fueling that half tank isn't necessarily empty because it's filled with vapor. So as you put fuel in, it evacuates vapor from the tank. Now, a blower system is designed to pull fresh air in from the outside and expel it from the inside. When you're refueling and that vapor is coming out of your tank from that vapor space, you take the chance of the fresh air coming in being the vapor from the gasoline. And that is where you see your boat explosions. So really what should happen is, first of all, always turn all electronics off. Even your batteries, it's smart to turn off.
Okay. Where there is electricity, there's sparks. Where there's sparks, there's fire. Is that the point in that?
That's exactly the point. And not necessarily you're going to get a spark from that, but the possibility is there. If you have a cabin or a cuddy, make sure those areas are closed off, because again, the vapors can collect in those areas too.
So I might think that if you have a cabin or cubby, leave the door open to it for air to get in, but you're saying
No, what we want to do is close that off.
I would assume you would say, and if you got little ones or anyone down in the cuddy while you're fueling up, come on out, guys.
Come on out, yeah. And you know, it's really good for everybody to be off the boat while it fuels. It's good for everybody to be off the boat when you finally restart it after blowing the motor clean of those fumes. When you put the fill hose in your tank, always create a contact there. That's a ground that grounds this pump to the boat, which lessens the probability of problems. Once you know the refueling's done, go ahead and open those areas back up again to vent themselves naturally, and go ahead and turn your blower on for several minutes.
Oh, okay. A lot of people might think seconds.
No, several minutes.
Okay.
And if you have an electronic hatch, leave that closed for those several minutes. Once those several minutes have passed, open your electronic hatch. Make sure you don't smell gas vapors. At that point, it's safe to restart your boat.
You're working with outboard motors. It's not necessarily an engine compartment, but there are precautions you should take with fueling as well.
Yeah, you should never refuel any vessel inboard, outboard I/O unless the motor is off. And that's a key thing with the outboard motors. You know, they're not going to collect the fumes because obviously they're out in the fresh air where your inboard isn't. But that motor needs to be turned off.
Avoiding tragedy really is as easy as turning a key into the off position.
Correct.
Well, what other advice do you have for us today?
Common sense. I mean, that covers a lot of things. Sometimes we just need to take a step back and think before we act. Always err on the side of common sense. And if you're questioning what you're doing, you probably shouldn't be doing it.
I want to take a quick second just to reinforce with people, we obviously love living on a lake because we've lived here a long time. But when you live on a lake, and you, having been a firefighter, you've seen why these safety tips are so important.
Exactly. You know, a matter of 4 or 5 minutes when you fuel several times a year can mean the difference between life and death.
Gotta love that, right?
Oh, exactly.
Yeah. Jeff, thank you so much.
Thank
we
you.
look forward to visiting with you again and learning so much more about life on the water. For safety tips, accessories, everything you want to know about boating, everything you need to get off the dock and on the water, check out floatyourboats.com.
It's a bit chilly here in the Ozarks, but that won't stop some of us from getting on the water. We're here at Kellysport Marine in Osage Beach, Missouri to chat with Captains Doug Beck and Bob May about ways you can stay warm and safe when you bundle up to go boating.
We still see a lot of boating at this time of year because we have anglers and, well, it's just so darn beautiful. We love to boat.
And you can chill out.
Most people, when they think hypothermia, they're thinking or they're out in the snow or they're, you know, on a desert highway someplace that's gotten real cold all of a sudden. Hypothermia for us really is dangerous because of the water. And if you end up in the water here, the water temperature continues to drop. So, you know, being prepared, making sure you have a life jacket on is ultimately important.
There's 3 stages of hypothermia. First stage is kind of a mild hypothermia where you're shivering, okay, and you're still conscious. You have the ability to move, and you can still operate, okay. The second stage is when really convulsive shivering, your breath is taken away, your muscles are starting to cramp up. Now that's where the danger comes in, because if your muscles start to cramp up, you're not able to swim. Again, that's where a life jacket will help you keep you buoyant. And then the third stage actually is unconsciousness. You're not able to move. CPR needs to be taken. And there's various first aids that need to be done in order to bring somebody out of hypothermia. In the first stage, basically warm liquids and warm clothing. If they're wet, completely wet, get them out of the clothing.
You both recommend taking extra clothes on the boat with you and putting them in a waterproof bag.
Right.
If you can, that's a good suggestion.
That's a good suggestion. Yeah.
Get back to the dock as quickly as you possibly can and get warmed up before you even do anything else. You know, just dock the boat, tie it off, get inside somewhere where you can get warmed back up again. Get in your truck or whatever and get warm.
Now, we have a lot of people that go out fishing by themselves or they boat by themselves. If you do fall out of the boat, okay, hopefully you'll have your life jacket on, but have a way to get out back into the boat, okay, that either by a boat ladder or some type of lift. Now, something that's real simple, a lot of boaters seem to forget. You have your outboard, okay?
Right.
And on the side of the outboard, there is a switch that will lift your lower unit up. You can stand on the dolphin fins of the outboard, flip the switch, and the hydraulics will actually lift you up, and you'll be able to climb into the boat.
Hopefully you had your lanyard connected to your kill switch so that when you did fall overboard, it killed the motor, if the motor was running at that point.
Correct.
A lot of times these guys will fall overboard when they're not driving. They're really actually just fishing, and they'll get caught by a wave or a wake or something like that, or the wind comes up all of a sudden and and throws them off balance and they end up in the water.
Would you say on your list of top safety devices for boaters is your life jacket and then your kill switch?
Absolutely.
Or both?
Yes.
Those are the two number ones.
Yeah, absolutely.
Those are the two number ones.
And then a float plan.
Something else that we've talked about before is you get back over to someone's fallen out of the boat, say, you know, you've drifted a little bit from them, you get back to them, turn that boat off.
Oh, absolutely.
Just don't put it in neutral, turn it off.
Count to 10 before you get out of the boat. That allows that prop to stop spinning. Because even though the engine is off, that propeller is still moving.
Wow.
And that can cut.
When you run your engine in cold weather like this, in cold water, is there something that you should keep an eye out for that maybe is particularly stressful for the engine, or they just plow right through this cold weather?
Let them warm up.
Okay.
Let the oil, because that oil is going to be a little thicker, and so you just want to just start it up and go. Get it warm, just like you would on your car.
Wow, the things I didn't know. Gentlemen, are we missing anything?
We've covered a lot of ground, you know, and a lot of water.
It might be cold, but we are still big fans of getting on the water at floatyourboats.com.
Getting ready to go boating is just as important as the safety precautions you take while you're on the water. Whether you're an experienced or new boater, make sure you have your safety equipment and know how to use it. Life jacket? Check. Whistle or horn? Check. Flares? Got it. Personal locator beacon? You bet. These are just a few of the items a real boater always has ready. Be prepared for the adventure.
Anchoring your boat is a skill that every boater should master. Confidently knowing how to anchor your boat can be useful for recreational activities and emergency situations.
Whether it's the perfect place to stop and safely swim, wrapped up with friends, or cast a line, an anchor can hold your boat steady in a secluded area for a few hours. If your engine fails, a properly set anchor will protect your boat from drifting into a nearby hazard like rocks or shallow ground. Anchors are an essential piece of safety equipment to always have on your boat, and some states require an anchor as a part of your safety gear.
Common types of recreational anchors are categorized by their shape and function, and they fall into 5 major categories.
The hook, the plow, the fluke, the claw, and the scoop. Research which anchor is best suited for your boat and the waterways you boat on the most. Anchors are heavy and can cause a man overboard situation, so make sure your life jacket is snug while anchoring. Before lowering the anchor over, let's talk about the anchor line. The line can be all rope, all chain, or more commonly a combination of both. The chain provides weight, so this combination is most effective. Remember that the wind and current will move your boat around the anchor. Be aware of your surroundings and allow for a 360-degree area for movement. Before lowering the anchor line, ensure that it is free of entanglements. Coil your line and keep it away from your feet. First, secure the end of the anchor line to the bow cleat. Second, you need to estimate the depth of the water. If your boat has a depth finder, that will be the easiest way. If not, refer to your nautical charts. Knowing the water depth will help you decide the correct amount of anchor scope required. The anchor scope is the ratio of the length of anchor line you will want to let out to the depth of the water. A scope ratio of 7:1, 7 feet of scope to 1 foot of water depth, is usually recommended. For example, if you know the water depth is 10 feet, you'll need approximately 70 feet of anchor line. Third, there is no need to throw the anchor. It is very heavy. Throwing an anchor can damage the side of your boat. Fourth, double check the coiled rope is away from your gear and your feet and begin slowly letting the anchor line out.
When there is wind and current, the boat will drift away from the anchor. Use the anchor scope and also set the anchor.
If there is no wind or current, once the anchor is lying on the seafloor, put your boat into reverse idle and slowly stretch out the anchor line from the bow to set the anchor. And fifth, verify that the anchor is set and not dragging on the bottom. You can sight on 2 landmarks on shore, or use your electronics such as a GPS, chart plotter, or depth finder to sound an alarm if the boat is moving.
If the wind, current, or tide changes and causes the boat to swing over the anchor, it may reset itself on the bottom. If it does not, you'll need to reset the anchor.
As repositioning of the boat may occur, be aware of your surroundings and conscious of whether the anchor is still embedded in the seafloor.
After you've enjoyed your day on the water, you'll need to reverse these steps to retrieve the anchor.
When it's time to retrieve the anchor, slowly motor towards the anchor while pulling in the anchor line. Give yourself enough space and clear of any gear that may get entangled in the line. Once you are directly over the anchor, it should pull free. If it is stuck, first try slowly turning the boat in a large circle to change the direction of pull on the anchor line. An alternate method is to pull up the anchor line until the boat is directly over the anchor, and then give the line a turn around a cleat. Pull it taut as the bow dips in the bottom of a wave, and when the next wave lifts the boat, it may break the anchor free.
Remember, never tie off an anchor to the stern of a boat. It's possible to pull the stern low enough to swamp the boat.
Water may come over the stern and fill the boat, which results in a very dangerous situation. If you can't release a stuck anchor, it's best to simply cut the line and replace the anchor. The sea floor may have rocks or other debris, and we may occasionally lose an anchor. Don't be embarrassed, it happens to everyone at some point.
To recap on anchoring, remember these steps.
Check that your life jacket is snug during anchoring. Never tie the anchor line to the stern of the boat. Determine the depth of the water. Let out the correct amount of anchor line based on the scope, which is 7 to 1. Stay alert to your surroundings and reset the anchor if you're drifting. It's worth saying one more time, never tie an anchor line to the stern of a boat. And remember, if you can't retrieve an anchor, it is safest to cut the line and buy another one.
Now that you have the basics of anchoring, go cast a line, swim, or raft up for the day.
Carbon monoxide is odorless but deadly. While boating, you can be exposed to carbon monoxide from the boat's exhaust while idling or underway. Here are some ways to stay safe. Use a marine carbon monoxide detector. Don't idle in place for too long and avoid other idling boats. When participating in any towed sport, use a long line and keep individuals away from the transom and swim platform while the engine is running. Learn more at safeboatingcampaign.com.